Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and thank you so much for tuning in with me today. So in today's video, I'm going to be ranking all of the palettes that I've recently tried, and I've got 16 right here. Most of these were released during Halloween, others were released at a different time, but all were released this year. So they are still new releases in the greater scheme of things. I mean, there were so many eyeshadow palette releases. And believe me, this one was difficult. It was difficult to rank them this time around. I kind of knew what I would put at the bottom, and I also kind of knew what I would put at the top. But everything in between gave me a headache. Also, this is not my yearly ranking. My yearly eyeshadow palette ranking, where I'm going to be ranking all of the palettes that I've tried out in 2024, is going to come up in January. It's because I really do want to take advantage of the month of December to still try out this massive pile that is right next to me of eyeshadow palettes that I have not tried out yet that were also released this year. I'm really doing my best to keep up, but there has been so much. There have been so many releases in terms of eyeshadow palettes this year. It's really difficult to keep up with what's coming out. But you know, we're gonna try. I'm gonna try to do my best. I mean, so that's why I wanted to get this ranking out as soon as possible. So please do rest assured, if you are looking for some inspiration with the palettes that I'm featuring in today's video, they are most likely featured on my channel. Most of them might be in short content. If not, some of these were also featured in long format videos, but they are most definitely somewhere on my channel. And if I have not uploaded the looks just yet, they're gonna come. They will be coming. I'm gonna do my best, okay? And also, please do let me know if you have tried out any of the palettes that are featured in today's video. Just drop me a comment down below. And also, if you do end up enjoying this video, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe to my channel, and also ring the bell in order to get notified about my upcoming videos. So just right before we are jumping into the ranking, I just want to stress this out. This ranking is solely based upon my personal experience with the palettes, upon my personal preferences. Please don't be upset if I have ranked something that you love at the bottom. Look, I'm gonna love it for you, but that's just the nature of ranking videos. You know, I have to make a decision on what to rank at the bottom and what is just gonna end up being my favorite out of the bunch. I do want to say though, like the quality of this batch right here, it was really good. So it really just boiled down to some very nitpicky things at the end of the day, or just to personal preference when it comes to the color stories. So without no further ado, let's just kick it off. And I've got 16 palettes right here, so let's kick it off with number 16. I immediately knew that this one would be at the bottom. It is what it is, you know. It's not necessarily a bad palette, but it's also, in comparison to everything else that's about to follow, not the greatest one. So number 16 is gonna go to Lawless Beauty, and it's the Dreamy Dozen Volume 2. If you have been on my channel for a long time, you may remember I have tried out pretty much all of the Lawless Beauty eyeshadow palettes. It's just a little bit of a shame. I feel like it's not the worst palette in the world, but I also feel like this was the most disappointing one when it comes to the formula, really. This one, unfortunately, is just not living up to what Lawless could do. And I don't understand it because for the past 2 years now, I have not tried out a Lawless palette that was top notch. So the color story here, it is a very safe color story. It's like a neutral, leaning on the warm side with like golden tones. We have a little bit of some coolness going on in the bottom row. What I like is the fact that it goes from light to deep. The matte formula of this palette is actually really lovely. It is the Lawless matte formula that I've known since years. It is buildable, very buildable, but very blendable. So I feel like you can definitely blend this out with ease. It's like not a biggie, honestly. But these shimmers are so outdated. I really feel like these shimmers do deserve an upgrade. This was so texture enhancing on my lids. It just does not have the intensity, the sparkliness, the shininess that I want out of my shimmer formula. This shimmer formula made this palette just so unspectacular, and it just did not stand out in the greater scheme of things. Yeah, what can I say? That's why it ended up at the bottom of my ranking. Again, it's not a bad palette, but it's definitely nothing to write home about, and I would not necessarily recommend this. Not really. So let's move on to the next one. The next one is not bad. I just feel like it's just a little bit more of a color story preference thing. And this one, number 15, is gonna go to Martin Cosmetics, and this is the Martin's Circus Show palette. So I have tried out so many of Martin Cosmetics eyeshadow palettes in the past. This is also a brand that I just want them to improve and improve and improve and just catch up with what is actually out there. Because I feel like they have great ideas. It just lacks a little bit in terms of execution. However, the packaging execution on this palette did not disappoint. Look at this outer packaging. This was a Halloween release, and the theming was, I don't know, psychopathic clown circus. Look how you're gonna open it up. You're gonna open it up like this. Okay, and then the palette is right here and it's in there. But how cool is that? It even says Showtime. Now, the palette itself, it is very colorful. And again, I don't mind colorful palettes. I don't mind neutral palettes. I like both. But this color story, when I started using it, I just felt like it was maybe like more of a half-baked idea. I really do feel like there was a little bit of repetition going on with this palette, especially in terms of the oranges. I felt like there were too many oranges. We had a peach, we had this orange, this one, then this red, and the yellow that sort of turned orange on me. It's a very, very warm yellow. And then this shade and this shade, they almost looked identical. I love the shade Twisty. This shade Twisty, I honestly wish this entire palette could have a formula like this, because we still have these more lackluster satins. These matte shades are quite pigmented. They do blend out nicely apart from the purple. I felt like the purple went on a little bit patchier and I had to blend, 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 blend. At the end of the day, my purple looked fine. It looked great, but it was a little bit more of an effort. In general, this color story is a little bit all over the place, and this part could have just been reworked a little bit. It's not the worst, it's also not the best. So next spot goes to a similar issue I had with the formula this time around, but with this palette I was a little bit more taken back by the fact that I did not fully love the formula as I'm used to by this brand. So number 14 is gonna go to Odin's Eye, and this is the Eternal Twilight palette. Look, I don't mind a big eyeshadow palette. A lot of people were saying I wish that these could have been two different palettes. I love this outer packaging, and I feel like this is something new for the brand, and I actually do appreciate the whole theming of this. There is a light side and there is like a dark side, which I kind of like that duality aspect of this palette. Is it the biggest palette that I have? Definitely not. I mean, if you own any Beauty Bay palettes, like the large ones, this is not that big. So this color story inside is very, very interesting. I mean, on one side, we kind of have like, I would say, very much like a spring color story. And then on the right, we have like this beautiful, cool tone color story that is just more up my alley. I also did combine both sides. You can either like just stick with one side or stick with the other side. And the mattes are okay. They are pretty. I honestly did not have an issue with the mattes. I really did not. But the shimmers, I mean, what happened? What happened? Like, this looks so pretty, but some of these shimmers felt so wet to the touch, like so emollient, so like almost like waxy, that when they went onto my eye, they like broke up. Like, I felt like they creased immediately upon application, and I had such a hard time just making them work and getting them to look nice. Not every shade is like that, but a lot of these had that problem, and especially the ones that you might be looking forward to the most. Like, this one was that formula. This one was that formula. This beautiful shade right here, also that formula. Like, there were just too many shades that had this issue, and I have never had an Odin's Eye palette where the shimmers were so bizarre. They really misbehaved. Like, I was a little bit disappointed. And then also another thing that I did not enjoy 100% about this palette, this green, although this looked amazing on camera, My gosh, this was too pigmented. Like, I almost could not get that one off my lids. So I had to do multiple, like, wash-offs of this shade in particular, and it just would not want to come off. I really hope that they could reformulate this and just make it the standard Owens Eye formula that we are used to and that we love. Not really my cup of tea, but I love this color story. If I just look at this, I get excited, you know. So let's move on to the next spot. And number 13 is gonna go to Bella Beauty Bar, and this is the Vamped eyeshadow palette. This is a Halloween release, and of course, I really like this theming. I mean, the color story is pretty. It is pretty. It's just when I am using this and creating looks with it, where I feel like something inside of me just tells me it might not be my favorite one. So of course this palette was inspired by vampires. I do love vampires. I mean, I get the red, I get the purple, I like the gray, the blue. One thing that I do not appreciate, and it's not just this palette, it's with a lot of reds. Reds on me have the tendency to pull very much hot pink. So I either need to mix in some yellow or I need to mix in some orange. So as a standalone eyeshadow palette, this one did disappoint me because I don't have a yellow in here. I don't have an orange in here. I mean, could I pull in a different Bella Beauty Bar palette to give me that? Yes. But I am judging these palettes, you know, how well they are working on me as a standalone palette. So I do think that this red looked so hot pink on me. And what I don't understand is that on my Instagram post of that look that I, you know, created with this palette, everyone said to me, "Oh, that is such a beautiful red eyeshadow look." And I'm like, where are you seeing red? Because everything I can see is hot pink. I can only see the hot pink. Apart from this shade right here, this actually did pull red on me. This one, hot pink. This one, I really thought this would work. Berry. Berry. So berry. So I ended up with a pink look. And I don't know why everyone thought it was a red look. Maybe because they knew that I used this palette. The necklace that I was wearing in that look is hot pink. It basically says zombie with the Barbie font. So that is hot pink. So I put it on because it just matched my hot pink eye look so well. Every time I mentioned that problem in the past, I had somebody saying in the comments that they do experience the exact same sort of phenomena. I feel like the shimmers, although they are stunning, they are a little bit too emollient, too wet for my liking. So the chances that these may crease on me are very high. If this would be a little bit drier, I would love this so much more. For me personally, this palette does have some defects. And that's why it ended up where it ended up. So let's move on to my number 12 in the ranking. And number 12 in my ranking is gonna go to Cosmic Beauty, and this is their Undergrowth eyeshadow palette. This palette is one of the best in terms of quality that Cosmic Beauty has ever come out with. For me personally, I just did not rank this one up higher because all of the other ones have color stories that I just vibe with a little bit more. So this color story is really for somebody who loves green, who loves these warmy, earthy tones. When I look at this color story, I immediately think, oh my gosh, an earth sign will absolutely love this eyeshadow palette and this color story. There are some bronzy tones, there is a lot of gold going on here. And we do have these like more murky, sort of like swampy colors. But then we also have this beautiful mint shade. I love mint. It's my favorite tone of green shades. But what I really liked about this palette is the fact that we have so many different options with this. However, I still feel like, you know, gold and swampy tones and olive tones, I do struggle a little bit with them. Nonetheless, I did create some beautiful looks with this palette, and I felt like the quality of these shimmers was outstanding. I just feel like this palette could have also benefited from a very light inner corner shade, like one of these iridescent, like neon green shades. Why was that not in this palette? The entire time when I was like working with this palette, I thought, where is that stunning iridescent shade that Cosmic Beauty always does. Maybe we could have just, swapped out one of these shimmer shades for something else. So, but in general, I think it's a pretty palette. I think it's amazing. The quality is top notch, just not 100%, my thing. So the next palette is number 11 in the ranking. And I'm actually so shocked that this is my number 11. Number 11 is gonna go to the Nomad Fuji 5 Lakes eyeshadow palette. Nomad Cosmetics is one of these brands that ever since they had released their Ghost Town USA eyeshadow palette, I just love their formula. So there is nothing wrong with this formula. And just look at this packaging. Oh my gosh, this palette would win the prettiest outer packaging of 2024. Maybe of all time. This looks like an oil canvas. And I mean, I love Japan. I've been to Japan before, and I've got to say, when I saw that they would release like a Fuji inspired eyeshadow palette, I was like, say less, say less. This palette is mine. So I recently only used this because I was just so overwhelmed with all of the eyeshadow palettes that I still had to try out, that this, for some bizarre reason, took a little bit of a back burner. But now I've tried it out and I do really, really like it. There are just a couple of things that I wish that were a little bit different, but the quality of this eyeshadow palette is outstanding. I've nothing bad to say about this quality. I absolutely adore these yellow tones in here. They are so stunning. Like, you can get me with something like that. But I just wish there could have been one more, like, deeper shade in this, because the deeper shade here is this blue teal, and it's not my favorite shade in this palette, so I was left with this shade, and it was just like, oh, I wish this could have had like, as silly as this sounds, but I really wish this could have had like a deep neutral brown, because then I could have like used this palette a little bit more to my advantage. Now, the other thing is that I feel like these two shades, I wish there could have been something different. This palette does include the three primary colors. So you can create a purple, you can also create an orange shade, you can just use this shade, mix it with that, and you have a customized orange shade. Well, we already have an orange shade right here, but you could also do a green shade, you just mix this with this and get a green shade. So I did a look with this palette where I did my lower lash line in a purple tone, and I just want to remind everyone that you can mix shades. And you know what? Because I have the yellow, because I have the orange, this red is not gonna turn berry or hot pink on me. The mattes are silky, smooth, buildable, blendable, look amazing. The shimmers, so smooth, so sparkly. This is exactly a type of shimmer formula that I love. I really do love what they have been doing lately with their shimmer formula. Again, since the Ghost Town USA palette, they've been killing it with this. Stunning, stunning. And I'm looking at my next palette and I'm like, how did this end up so low? I mean, the quality was just, it was so difficult for me to do this ranking, but again, I had to just make up my mind somehow. So number 10 is gonna go to Blamp Bunny Cosmetics, and this is the Divination eyeshadow palette in collaboration with Robert Welch. Oh my gosh, a fortune teller eyeshadow palette, get out. And I also really do enjoy Robert Welch. He has an amazing channel and he is just a fountain of knowledge. So this color story is, it's a lot. It's like a very interesting rainbow palette without the reds, but it has a lot of like shades going on, 2 rows of shimmers. I really like this layout. It's very easy to navigate this kind of palette. This is the very first time that Blamp Bunny ever included brown shimmers in the eyeshadow palettes. Like a proper neutral brown, and not just one. Oh no, we have 3. One here, this one, and this one. This shade is so beautiful. It has like this beautiful brown, neutrally rosy undertone with like these blue iridescent sparkles in there. It's just insanely stunning. I think it's a beautiful palette. The quality is amazing. And thank the Lord that I finally have some beautiful brown shimmers in here. But yeah, I wish this could have been maybe boiled down a little bit. I mean, maybe if we would have lost this middle like thing, like these blues and the purples, we have seen that so many times with Blamp Bunny. This could have been something very interesting, something different. But I also understand Robert's perspective. He's a makeup artist after all, so he really wants to have a lot of like options here. But overall, great quality. And yeah, I really adore this palette at the end of the day, you know. So let's move on. So number 9 in the ranking is gonna go to the Icy Nude Eyeshadow Palette by Huda Beauty. I really do enjoy this palette. There are some things about this that I wish would have been a little bit different, but overall, I was really impressed with this. And this is also a color story that really, really spoke to me. You guys may know I love cool tones. I really do. So when I saw this palette, I was like, oh my gosh, this looks interesting. I want to try this one out. I mean, the only thing that I really have to critique about this palette, and I think everyone at this point did say this, that this glitter right here called Bling is terrible. It's scratchy, it's gritty, it's a mess. I did not even use this. I just swatched it and I was like, wow, I'm gonna peel off my skin on my arm. I don't advise anyone to use this on their eyes. Like, that is just a recipe for disaster, really. And I really do love the matte tones in this. I think the mattes are stunning. They really like blend it out amazingly. They build up on each other very, very well. I really like how this is going from light to deep. This deep shade is really, really useful. I managed to deepen up all of my looks with this one color. These tones are just so stunning. Really, really pretty. Another thing about the mattes, though, that I would slightly critique is, my gosh, I wish this palette could have had like a baby blue. Like something like that I'm wearing kind of in my inner corner, to make it like really icy. Because this is a very pastel shade, this is very pastel and this is very pastel and this is very pastel. So maybe we could have changed one out for a baby blue and it would have been even more icy. I ended up reaching for this so much. Also in my everyday life, I feel like this is such a wearable, beautifully curated color story with some minor issues. So let's move on to the next one. The next one is my number 8 in the ranking, and this one is gonna go to Ansley Rain Groovy Garden Eyeshadow Palette. Oh my gosh, this palette is stunning. I mean, these tones, these beautiful pinky mauvey tones combined with some stunning mints and some beautiful greens, some like cool tone greens here as well. And I really like the fact that we have these 2 rows of mattes, and then in the middle we have these stunning multichromes. I just feel like these 3 looked a little bit similar. Like, they all had some like greeny golden shift to them, but I really love this palette and I did create one of my favorite looks out of this entire year with this palette. This is one of my favorite palettes by Ansley Rain in the greater scheme of things. I think this is so beautiful. Very, very pretty. So let's move on to number 7 in my ranking. And number 7 is gonna go to Unearthly Cosmetics, and this is the Night Terror eyeshadow palette. I really love this brand. I want to have every palette that they are coming out with. Guess what? I actually ordered Not Normal and the new one. Oh my gosh, what is it called? Their holiday release for Christmas. Just a Taste? Just a Taste? Maybe it's called Just a Taste. Anyway, this was part of a collection box. I really did love everything in that box. There was a lip gloss and there was a liquid highlighter that came with this palette, and these 2 products were amazing, but so was this. This is beautiful. This is a 9-pan eyeshadow palette, so it's a little bit smaller, but this color story, oh, get out. This is exactly what I love, and I don't have many negative things to say about this at all. I think this is beautifully curated. I absolutely love this setup of this. I think this is one of the best 9-pan color stories I have ever seen. This shade Night Terror in the middle, oh my gosh, this is just one of the most beautiful multichromes ever. It's looking so wet on your eyelids, and just a combination of these desaturated mauves with like the ultraviolets, with the dusty mauve, the baby pink, the periwinkle, and then a deepening up shade. Love this. I love this. I actually created a look with this where I used all of the shades. I did manage to use all 9 shades in one look, and the look turned out to be beautiful. I really did enjoy the look, and this is just such a stunning palette. I absolutely love this quality. Top notch. Okay, so let's move on to the next palette, and this was such a surprise to me. I honestly thought that when I received this palette, I would not rank this up very high. I honestly thought this would end up at the bottom of my ranking just when I looked at it. But when I started using this, I was convinced that this was something special and that this is so pretty. So number 6 in my ranking is gonna go to Too Faced Aptly in Love eyeshadow palette. This is a limited edition palette by Too Faced. I have never tried out Too Faced eyeshadow palettes. I know, don't come for me. Don't come for me. Was I sleeping on something amazing? Maybe I was. But I was really, really impressed with this one. I mean, it's just this color story. This color story is so pretty. This is more of a warm toned eyeshadow palette. And I think for a warm toned eyeshadow palette, this really just gave me something different. This just gave me so much variety. Like, this is a stunning formula in terms of mattes. Like, I was really surprised, you know. This wasn't like a powdery mess. This was creamy, it was buttery, silky. I really enjoyed the mattes in this, for sure. And I really enjoyed the tones of this. And I also really like the whole concept of this being inspired by apples. So I thought that was very well done and it was interesting. In terms of shimmers, I really thought I would tap into an outdated formula in the beginning, initially, like the Lawless palette, right? But oh my gosh, no. No, 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 no. Some of them are so beautiful. There are definitely two different formulas in here. There is more of a satin formula in here, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but nonetheless, it's working. But then there was this stunning, sparkly, like formula in this shimmer formula. And I was really, really impressed by these, especially this shade, Sparkling Cider, this shade, Slice Slice Baby, the shade Smitten, and then this golden shade Crunch Time. Usually I don't love a warm gold, but this looked like royal. Like this was like royalty golden. I don't know. It looked so pretty. And it is very rare for me to say that I do like a warm golden shade, but this was stunning. This was stunning. I mean, there were so many different shades that were stunning. The satins in this, I think there are 3. This one, and this one. They're my all-time favorite ones, to be honest. That's why I did not rank it up higher, because I would have otherwise. And I wish, and I know, I keep on saying that, every palette that does not have that, and that just gives me a taste of it, but doesn't deliver on it, it's gonna get downgraded. Because I wish this could have been a mint. Oh my gosh, if this would have been a matte mint, that would have been so much more exciting even, I think. So let's move on to my top 5. And the next palette is also one of these palettes that I did not expect to love, but honestly, I love it. Like, what can I say? It's also not by an indie brand. But I don't think it's an indie brand. I'm not sure about that, actually. But number 5 is gonna go to Makeup by Mario, and it's the Ethereal Eyes Moonlight eyeshadow palette. In the beginning, I did not want to pick up this eyeshadow palette because this year I did pick up his all mattes eyeshadow palette, like these neutral shades, and you guys know I did not really enjoy that palette. I ranked it quite low, but I feel like this one is just an elevated sort of formula, elevated quality, and this color story was just so up my alley. Like, we have everything that I love. Cool toned neutrals, and these shimmers are out of this world, like sophisticated, sparkly, beautiful. And for once, we have golden tones that I adore. These are some of the palest golden shades I've ever used in my entire life, and they look so good on me. So good on me. And this is exactly what I love. Like, this is so beautifully curated. I'm gonna be honest with you, I did not necessarily need this metallic shade though. That's like something I'm not too crazy about. But everything else in this palette, this is very cool toned. And you guys know I love my cool tones. I am such a sucker for a beautiful cool tone and a neutral cool tone with a pop of blue. I mean, who am I kidding, right? I am wearing like cool tone browns today in combination with some blues. Now, this is not like necessarily a baby blue or anything. It's like more of a midnight blue. It's not that flashy as this one might be. By the way, this is by Nomad Cosmetics. Like, this is their brand new eyeshadow palette, just in case you were wondering. It's not in this ranking, but this look is gonna come up on my shorts tab for sure. So just have a look out on that if you are interested. I will say though, the shimmers do have a lot of fallout, but if you are very careful and if you use glitter glue and you build them up slowly, if you don't use a brush, you barely get any fallout. It's workable, and I think this is beautiful. It's really up my alley, and I could not rank this any lower because I really like this. All right, so let's move on to my number 4 in the ranking. So my number 4 is gonna go to Fantasy Cosmetica, and this is the Harvest of Souls eyeshadow palette. Ooh, this was also a Halloween release from the brand. I love Fantasy Cosmetica. I really, really do. I think they have one of the best formulas out there. This color story is just something special. I think this is very unique. I really think this color story is more of a muted, sort of colorful palette. But it's just so interesting, and I love the variety that you can get with this palette. Fantasy Cosmetica really figured out how to make a wet-looking shimmer formula without being too emollient. So it looks very glossy on the lids, and I just love this color story. I really, really love it. I mean, one of my favorite color combinations of all time is purple and chartreuse yellow or green, like this. Stunning, absolutely beautiful. I also really like these more like blue tones, and then also I love this green. This green is exactly the type of tone of green that I love. Of course, I'm not in love with these two shades. If these two shades were something else, this would have even ranked higher. But this is beautiful. The shifts were beautiful, quality was beautiful, blended out like a dream, and you can create so many fun looks with this. Absolutely stunning. All right, guys, let's move on to my top 3 of the ranking. All of these 3 brands that I'm about to follow are actually brands that you've already seen in this ranking. So number 3 is gonna go to Ansley Rain, and this is the Flutter eyeshadow palette. This palette, the color story, the curation of this palette, just incredible. I think this came out at the end of summer, early fall time, if I'm not mistaken. This is a 12 pan eyeshadow palette, and I think for a 12 pan eyeshadow palette, this is so well curated. And these tones, the colors, these special shades, I feel like somebody took all of the special shades that I love and put them in one palette. The only shade that I don't love about this is this one, the swampy yellow green. Oh man, if this could have been something else. This may have been higher. I don't know. I mean, it's already like number 3. I really did not want to be too harsh on this palette just because of that shade. I mean, I will never use that shade. I love Ansley Rain so much, but this was something that stood out to me. It really did. And I think just the whole curation of this. They also have a Flourish eyeshadow palette. I did order this quite recently because I was just so head over heels in love with this color story that I thought maybe that one is going to be interesting for next year, springtime. But also just with these shimmers, these sparkly shades, these shifts on these shades are exactly up my alley. This really surprised me like a lot in a very, very positive way. So that's why it ended up where it ended up. Number 3. It is just so beautiful. The only thing is, the next 2 palettes I even preferred more. So number 2 is gonna go to Nomad Cosmetics Chicago Speak Easy eyeshadow palette. The packaging honestly gives me like Art Deco vibes, like almost like Great Gatsby vibes. When I saw this color story being revealed, I immediately knew this is up my alley. This is exactly what I love. I mean, these dusty lilacs, these toasty sort of browns, the curation of these colors together, and also their shimmers, these multichromes. People keep on saying that these are not like the strongest shifty multichromes in the world, but they are some of the most stunning ones. They are just so sophisticated when they go onto the eye. They don't have to be always like this crazy shifty thing for me, but they just have to give me something that I don't have. I love this formula. This formula, these mattes, buttery smooth, blendable, pigmented. They just look so, so, so amazing. And I really think this matte formula is just elevated. It's just something that I love working with. It's really beautiful. And I love the fact that this goes from light to deep in a very well curated way. The contrast is really there. I just enjoyed every look I did with this palette so, so, so much. And this might be dethroning my Ghost Town USA palette in terms of my favorite palette by the brand. It's so stunning. I can't. This is just, oh, so beautiful. So yeah, well deserved number 2. Okay, guys, are we ready for my number 1 spot? I immediately knew that this would be my number 1. No questions asked. When I think about this palette, I'm actually, I don't know, it makes my heart jump a beat. That's how much I adored this. And of course, maybe you know what I'm talking about. My number 1 is gonna go to Unearthly Cosmetics, and this is the Gargoyle Eyeshadow Palette. Are you surprised? Really? Are you? I wasn't. I immediately knew that this would be my favorite palette out of this batch. This color story is just on a whole different level. This formula is on a different level. These interesting tones. Like, I love the fact how we have this beautiful combination of neutral shades with a little bit of minty green, with some violet gray, and then some of these like dusty blue shades, and then this pop of royal blue. This really makes my soul so happy. I did some stunning looks with this eyeshadow palette. The quality is just over the roof. And these shimmers are insane. They are so sparkly, they are so easy to use. And just the way that these look on the eye, ah, this is so beautiful. I mean, this shade Mystic Stone, this was so stunning, but maybe my favorite shade out of this entire palette is the shade Guardian. This was like almost like a gold with green with like some pink in there. It's just incredible, incredible. And I think this is, yeah, it's one of my favorite color stories that Unearthly has ever done. Now, I'm still waiting on 2 palettes, and back in the day, the Not Normal palette was my favorite one, and they have recently remastered that one. So I can't wait to get my hands on that. And their new palette, I think it's called Just a Taste, the vampire-inspired palette. Maybe that's like a revival of their Warms My Blood eyeshadow palette, who knows? Again, they look fantastic. So Unearthly is just killing it this year. They are literally killing it, and this is a dream come true. I mean, if you know my style of makeup, you know that this is me. This is just something that I would just go crazy over, and I definitely did. And I think this is one of the best and most beautiful pieces of makeup that I do own. Unearthly is just one of these brands that is continuously like outdoing themselves. And I just really, really love that about them. And this is just well deserved, well deserved. But yeah, that was my ranking. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing another ranking with the palettes that were left from this year. I mean, I could do that, you know, but then I would probably delay the yearly ranking, and I don't really want to do that. I'm already going to be putting that out in January just so that I can have more time to try out more palettes. So it's gonna come up in January, so just be a little bit patient with me, but I promise you it's gonna be a crazy one. So just stay tuned on here, and meanwhile, please do let me know, have you tried out any of these palettes that are featured in today's video? What are your thoughts on them? Let me know in the comment section down below. You guys know I'm always really intrigued to hear from you. And if you did enjoy this video, please don't forget to give it a like, hit the subscribe button, and also ring the bell in order to get notified about my upcoming videos. So until next time, please do take care. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.